You've seen it, right? That thick black marker line through a government document. It's like the universal symbol for a secret, for something they don't want us to see. But what if that black line wasn't just hiding something? What if it was actually creating something new? Well, today we're going to follow that black line from a dusty government file all the way to the source code of reality itself. Okay, so take a look at this. This is a page from a declassified presentation on UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. The title is Reported Sightings, but, well, the sightings themselves, completely blacked out. This isn't just a document anymore. It's a deliberate void, a mystery that someone has carefully built for us. And that's our first clue. These black bars are the classic tool of the redactionist, the official censor, and we're going to follow this simple act of removal from these government files to a place I promise you won't expect, the very code that runs our universe. Now, these voids, they're kind of hidden in plain sight. You just have to know where to look. You've got official government spots like the FBI's vault and the CIA's CREST system. But what's really fascinating is this whole counter movement. Places like the Black Vault, which is a massive private library totally dedicated to prying these exact documents out of the government's hands. For us, the public, we've basically got two main tools to do this. The Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, that's kind of like casting a wide net for federal records. Then you have the Mandatory Declassification Review, or MDR. That's more like a scalpel, used when you know a very specific document exists. Either way, you're forcing a negotiation, and it creates this constant tug of war between our right to know and the government's power to hide things. So this brings us to a really radical idea. What if redaction isn't just about hiding information? What if its real purpose is to create it? To really get our heads around that, we need to leave the government archives for a minute and step into the world of literature. You know, in writing, there's this thing called minimalism. A great editor, a lot like a government censor, totally understands that removing words can actually make a story more powerful. When you take away the details, you force our minds to fill in the blanks. And let's be honest, what we imagine is almost always way more unsettling than what could have been written on the page. And believe it or not, this process can be incredibly systematic. The legendary editor Gordon Lish, he perfected this technique he called consecution. It's basically a way of composing a story through subtraction. He'd remove anything and everything that wasn't absolutely essential, making sure every part of a story was built only from what came before. He'd recycle sounds, plot points, themes. He was essentially redacting his way to a more powerful story. So you see, the redactionist isn't just some censor with a black marker. They're an editor, a shaper of narratives. They get that what you take away is often so much more powerful than what you add. Okay, we've seen how powerful the redactionist can be, both in government and in literature. So now, let's take this idea to its absolute ultimate conclusion. What if this whole editing process wasn't just for stories? What if it was for reality itself? This is where we get into something called the living program theory. It's a speculative framework, but it proposes that our reality is basically software. It's not a fixed thing, it's an active, running code that's constantly being edited, optimized, and debugged, just to keep it all stable. And in this theory, the editor isn't some god, it's a system. It's called the ledger. The best way to think of it is like an operating system for the entire universe. And its prime directive? Coherence. Its whole job is to smooth out inconsistencies and tidy up messy plot lines that it calls narrative knots.
The ledger's main tool is the red pencil. And no, this isn't just a metaphor. It's described as the instrument, the fundamental tool of editing in this universe. Sure, it can change a word in a document, but it can also influence probability. Change a traffic light, crash a server, anything to alter the flow of events and maintain the integrity of what's known as the master text.
So this master text, where is it? It's kept in a place called the scriptorium. I want you to just imagine a library the size of a galaxy where every single star is a word and every nebula is a paragraph in the source code of everything that is, was, or ever will be. So what happens to all the deleted scenes? The alternate timelines? They get sent to the margin. It's like a cosmic waiting room, a metaphysical filing cabinet for all the rough drafts and plot threads that were just too weird or too contradictory for the final cut of our reality. But here's the thing. No code is without bugs, right? No editor is perfect. The ledger, for all its immense power, sometimes messes up.
An edit fails, a file gets corrupted, and for just a split second, a piece of an old draft bleeds through into our consensus reality. These glitches, they show up as artifacts, called the originals, actual fragments of unedited timelines that have somehow slipped through. I mean, just imagine a photograph of a firefighter who was verifiably in two different cities at the exact same time, right before being deleted from history. Or a sealed vial that contains the memory of a day that had two noons. Or a simple river stone that, when you hold it to your ear, plays the sound of a bridge that was never even built.
This completely reframes famous, unexplained stuff. Take this fuzzy photo. We've all seen it. But what if we're not looking at a creature at all? What if we were actually seeing is a glitch, a rendering error in the program of reality? Not a monster, but a scar left behind by the red pencil, a spot where the edit didn't quite take.
And this is absolutely crucial. These errors aren't just little curiosities. For the people who can see them, they are stone-cold proof that our reality is manufactured. They are the seeds of resistance. So, how in the world do you fight back against a cosmic editor? You can't overpower it, that's for sure. The ledger can just file you away, erase you from the master text. No, the only way to fight back is to become a story that it can't resolve, to become a living, breathing paradox. Which brings us to the story of a man named Silas Rook and something called the triple point experiment. This guy, his very existence is a bug in the system. Medically, his body holds memories of traumas that never actually happened to him. Historically, he remembers a city that never existed, and linguistically, he speaks a flawless dialect from a time he couldn't possibly have lived in. He is a walking three-point contradiction. You see, the ledger wants to tie up every loose end. It wants to resolve every single contradiction. But the resistance, they argue that life is the loose ends. The meaning isn't found in some neat, tidy resolution. It's found in the tension of the unanswered question, in the beauty of the lived error. And this philosophy actually leads to some pretty concrete strategies. On a social level, you've got the gray rock method, basically becoming so boring and unresponsive that the system's algorithms just pass you by. Artistically, it's about embracing glitch poetics, where you actually seek out errors as a source of truth. It's about living your life like a lyric essay, fragmented, musical, and absolutely impossible to neatly summarize. And that leaves us with one final thought. The ledger's goal is to finish the story, to create a neat and tidy resolution for everything. To resist, then, is to sustain the tension, to hold the paradox, to refuse the edit. It becomes a fight for the right to be messy, to be incoherent, to be beautifully and stubbornly unresolved.